name is Karen McLean. Okay, my name is Karen McLean, and I'm with the Oregon Board of Pharmacy. Thank you so much for joining us today and for your participation in this year's food drive. Today on the call, we have our food drive planning committee, Brenda Turner, Lynn Nieland, Ann Birch, Lucy Gardner, Josh Goodwin from the Marion Polk Food Share, and Megan Davis from the Oregon Food Bank. And we're really happy to have them with us today. We have a pretty simple agenda today. In a few minutes, we're going to hear an update from Josh about the past year and the work from the Marion Polk Food Bank Food Share and how that's been going. We're going to spend some time going through the coordinator resources and talking about the format of this year's food drive. We'll hear from Megan about the Oregon Food Bank and about the state of the state and the work of the regional food banks that are going on. And we'll spend some time sharing our best ideas. So again, thank you so much for being here today. And we're going to pass this over to Josh. Sorry, Josh.
All right, so hello everyone. My name is Josh Gwynn. I'm the Community Partnerships Coordinator for Marion Polk Food Share. So first, let's all remain hopeful for the future that we're all together creating, where we can meet together safe and healthy at a local regional food bank like Marion Polk Food Share, like we used to kick things off, all in a celebration of neighbors helping neighbors, all in a commitment of vibrant, healthy, and a hunger-free Oregon. So local regional food banks that you in this drive support believe in that future. Together, the 21 regional food banks that make up the Oregon Food Bank Network, from the South Coast Food Bank in Coos Bay to Capco Food Share way out in Pendleton, they partner together to end hunger and its root causes throughout Oregon, as well as Southwest Washington. Because of every generous payroll deduction, over 1,400 distribution programs exist throughout Oregon and Southwest Washington, ensuring a healthy abundance is safely accessible to all in need, no matter what, including a global pandemic. So before this pandemic, roughly 1 in 11 Oregonians were food insecure or lacking regular access to the foods needed to live a healthy life. Now, because of the pandemic and all of this economic fallout, roughly 1 out of every 8 Oregon neighbors are food insecure. So in response, state employees helped to provide nearly 2 million meals through last year's drive. So clearly, even when we're still isolated, even when we're still masked and tired and in our tiny little boxes, we're all steadfast partners. You state employees are as dedicated as ever to that hunger-free future. So for all the regional food banks that make up the Oregon Food Bank Network and all of the neighbors that we serve together, thank you. So up next, we're going to show a video taking you inside that network to show you how the Oregon Food Bank Network is going local to create a world where hunger never happens.
Thanks, Josh. Hang on just 1 second here and I should be able to pull it up. Hopefully. All right, is everybody able to see this? And I might have to have you unmute, somebody unmute so that I can.
I can see it.
Yep, I can see it.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, so we'll see if it is supposed to share the sound, and that is always the trick, isn't it? I'm going to push play here. Let me know if you don't hear the sound.
Oregon Food Bank is unique in the food banking network because of our mission. We're working on the root causes of hunger.
so that we are not just about getting people food today, but we are about putting ourselves out of business and creating a world in which hunger never happens. We are organized as a network that has existed for 40 years now, very collaborative, very local, very dispersed power, and lots of local leadership. So it's important to understand our structure. At the top, we have the more than 1 million people are asking for food assistance. They're served by 1,400 food assistance sites. And the vast majority of those food assistance sites are all volunteer run. So there are tens of thousands of volunteers who are helping directly distribute food out to folks. The food assistance sites are served by 21 regional food banks, so a warehouse that serves a couple counties. Oregon Food Bank runs 4 of the 21 regional food banks. Those 4 warehouses are located in Beaverton, Tillamook, the Dalles, and Ontario.
My name is Sheila Hyatt. I am the Branch Services Manager here at Oregon Food Bank Southeast Oregon Services in Ontario, Oregon.
I'm Sharon Thornberry and I'm the manager of Columbia Gorge Food Bank.
I'm Miss Carlson Swanson. I'm with Oregon Food Bank Tillamook County Services, and I'm the Branch Services Manager. Being part of a statewide network is amazing. It allows us to work together to have more power in food acquisition, and through advocacy, we come together once, if not more, a year to go to Salem, to the capital, and talk about issues, either root causes of hunger or funds for serving food insecure individuals. We work together to have a slate of issues that we work to advocate for throughout the year.
So even though that we are approximately 360 miles plus from Portland, we still have the support that we need. Being a part of the Oregon Food Bank network, we have a greater support system and are more able to respond effectively and efficiently.
Since COVID started, we've gained a lot more support because people understand the importance of having supplemental food, and so many more people have needed our assistance, and people have responded to support that.
One of the things that has struck me about the response during the pandemic is how critical it is to be leaderful, to have leaders at every level of a network. We have been successful at meeting the incredibly heightened need for food assistance during this pandemic because each individual food assistance site, 1,400 of them, made decisions to stay open and to serve their community through public health. And 21 regional food banks made those decisions, and Oregon Food Bank made those decisions, and our donors made those decisions. And so we are all working individually, but collectively towards the goal of keeping the food flowing. Oregon Food Bank's mission is to eliminate hunger and its root causes. Some people interpret root causes to mean poverty, but I would argue that poverty itself has a root cause, and it is systemic inequities. When we look through the history of our country, we see that there are people in poverty are people of color. There are trans folks, they are immigrants, there are women with small children and single moms. That we have designed systems that don't work well for our communities of color and other marginalized communities. These are systemic inequities. And we can't solve hunger unless we also solve those inequities. So we have to work on living wages. We have to work on access to healthcare. We have to work on racial justice, because all of these things lead to the conditions that sustain and perpetuate poverty.
I'm going to unmute now. I hope everybody was able to see that. Since I was sharing my screen, I wasn't able to see all of the comments, but thank you, Josh, for putting the link into the chat. As Karen said, a couple of us are going to get a chance to talk to you today, and I'm the next one up. My name is Lynn Nieland, and I'm part of the Food Drive Planning Committee and have been for the last couple of years, and would also like to welcome you. Thank you all for making time to be here and to participate in this. For many of you, many years running, we really are grateful for you. Next, I haven't shared the presentation yet. We got started and then it felt like it might interrupt some of our view of each other. So Next up, we are going to hear from Megan, who is representing the Oregon Food Bank, who produced the video that we just showed. And then following that, I'll share my screen again and share the rest of our presentation. So Megan, if you'd like to say hello.
Yeah, all right. Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Davis from the Oregon Food Bank. Again, thank you for joining us this morning. I kind of wanted to take a moment to speak to the importance of funds this year. For many folks here, food drives were a big part of the drive, and we are so grateful for your past and continued support. This year, we are asking for fund donations. What's exciting about this year is that we can stretch $1 further than a pound of food, especially in a time of crisis like the wildfires or the pandemic. Every dollar raised for your regional food bank provides at least 3 meals to your community. I also wanted to raise up the power of fund donations to address the root causes of hunger and some of the systemic issues facing our communities. Across the OFB network, we advocate and organize local communities to fight the root causes of hunger. Right now, that can look like pushing to keep the eviction moratorium in place, or advocating to keep or increase SNAP/TANF benefits for all of our neighbors. Again, advocating for funds can feel less tangible, but I wanted to emphasize fundraising for your regional food bank makes an impact and provides more food to your neighbors right now. And again, thank you for continuing to support this drive year after year, and I will now pass it back to Lynn.
Thanks. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. So if you are new to the drive, you're probably wondering what you've gotten yourself into and what you need to know. And happily for you, there are definitely people that, like I said, that have been part of this for years and years. And a little bit later, we're going to invite those of you who have done this before to share, especially some of what worked for you last year with some of the changes that we made. And we were really happy and excited to hear how many really creative, truly creative ideas you had even before the drive, just based on the things that some of your organizations have been doing virtually. And we'd love to hear a report out on how some of those strategies worked and what some of the successes that you experienced. So for those of you that are new, be reassured that we have lots of great resources ahead. And actually, before I share, again, not to give everybody whiplash, but can I see, just while I can see everybody's faces, a show of hands, or if you want to add something to the chat, for those of you who are new this year, would you throw up your hand and we can welcome you and put a face? Wow, there's so many. This is great. Okay, I'm going through, some of you don't have your cameras on here, but welcome, Kim. Thank you. Okay, so we have quite a few new faces. And from the looks of it, we have quite a few who've been around for a while and will be great resources. One of the things we started last year was trying to share some draft messages and some information periodically as we were preparing, and then throughout the month, so that you could use those templates. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But for those of you who are new, let us know when you feel like you need more resources or you need a little bit more help with coming up with the things that you can share out with your agencies, and you have any questions. That as we kind of go through here, and each of us that are part of the committee say hello, feel free to note our names and send us a message, or send a message to our food drive inbox. We'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later here too. So with all of that, I'm actually going to share my screen here. I know you've been waiting.
From their regional food bank, and there are 21 of them across Oregon and Clark County. Oregon Food Bank runs 5.
Sharing the video. That's not helpful. Okay. Let me try and not have that be the case. Try again. Okay.
Complex, interconnected, interdependent, locally.
I've never had this happen before.
It's a very persistent video you've got there.
It really is. It's really not letting go. I'm not even sharing that screen. Let's see here. Okay. Can everybody see the PowerPoint? Can anybody see the PowerPoint?
Yes, we can see it.
With
Okay.
the notes. There we go.
Goodness sakes. Well, it's good. It's also good that that humble moment was recorded for all of time. Thank you all for those of you who are not here for your patience for in the future. So some of the things you might be wondering, what do you need to know? For the next few minutes, we're going to go through a few of the resources that are available. Again, for those of you who've been a part of this for years past, you will see a lot of things that are pretty familiar. And beginning last year, we did make some changes to the way that we run the drive, and the focus really shifted toward payroll deductions. The Workday team worked with us, and they were incredible at setting that up. And we really, it was amazing, the statistics and then the amount of money that we raised through those payroll deductions and also through credit card donations. And it was really amazing. So we are going to continue with that model again this year. And so a lot of what you will see in these resources and online will reflect an emphasis on payroll deductions and credit card donations directly to those regional food banks. Some of also what we're going to run through are some of what you are being asked to do or invited to do as a part of this, the food drive as an agency coordinator, some information about finding and training site coordinators, the logistics about the drive, as I said, and then where to go when you have questions. And then you'll learn a little bit more about the food bank network and the regional food banks and how to contact them. So first off, I just wanted to start by kind of orienting you to the Coordinator Handbook. And this is a document that we have been revising over several years now, and hopefully refining to make even more valuable and useful for those of you who are helping to coordinate the food drive in your local organizations and agencies. So this kind of is the combination of everything that I'm going to talk about today, hopefully as a resource. It's something that you can go back to. In times past, we printed them and shared them out. We're continuing to make them available online. And so we'll share, actually, I don't know if that's something, one of the other food committee members, if you would mind putting the link from the website in the chat, that might be an easy way just to share it right now. But this is available on the website, and it has a lot of, as I said, a lot of references and resources to other documents that you'll be using throughout the drive, and then other information like ideas about fundraising and things like that. So these are all of the topics that are included in the Coordinator Handbook. And as I said, it includes the recruiting and utilizing of site coordinators, frequently asked questions, some fundraising ideas, tips on how to increase participation, information about the Governor's Challenge, which is kind of a fun way that we've been that agencies and organizations can use to challenge each other to meet certain goals. There are also some hunger facts included in the Coordinator Handbook, but they'll be also included in some of the emails that we send you throughout the month. And there are ways that you can increase understanding in your staff and the employees at your agency or universities. But they also kind of remind the people that all of us and everybody that's participating why we're doing this. And some of them are really, they're really impactful. So I encourage you to go to the Coordinator Handbook if you're looking for something that you know to send mid-month during the month of February, just to kind of remind everyone why we're doing this and how powerful and what an impact it has. So before I move on to the Food Drive website, we'll see how this goes, because the last time it went so smoothly. I thought we could go and look at the handbook itself. So I am going to okay, so can everybody see this? Yes? Any? No?
No, not yet.
Anything now? You still just see?
No,
No?
Just the message that you're starting screen sharing.
And Lynn, some people couldn't see the PowerPoint slides, so maybe we could share them with all of
Okay,
the.
yes, we definitely, yep, that's a great point. Nobody can see it still?
no, can't see anything yet.
Oh, it says that I'm sharing.
It's still trying to share.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So just an FYI, the link from oregon.gov/food drive, that link works, but the hyperlink to the handbook from that page does not work. There's no associated handbook.
Okay, okay, well, we will, it's still not sharing. I might just move on.
No, it's not sharing.
Okay. So far, we're striking out here on the sharing. So I might try that one more time, but otherwise, we will definitely, please be reassured, we will share all of these resources individually, and we'll share the links where you can go back and you can find them all. Goodness. So hopefully, the second thing that I was going to share with you was the food drive website, and I'm concerned that that is also not going to be successful. So I'm going to try one time here, but otherwise we might just move on. One of the things about the food drive website that's okay. Yes?
No.
No? Still says it's trying to share.
It said has started screen sharing, but the screen is black.
Okay. Okay. Well, Brenda, were you going to say something?
So I did put the link to the main food drive, the homepage in the
Okay,
chat.
that's great.
If people just want to go to the main page, then you can at least walk them through. Keep in mind, everybody, that we are still updating.
Okay.
So don't print anything off quite yet until we give you the green light in the near future that everything has been updated. So keep that in mind as we're going through the site.
So for those of you who are able to navigate to the site, the links under the coordinator information, a lot of these resources are also included in that coordinator handbook. And if it sounds like the link right now to the coordinator handbook hasn't been updated, so that will be updated. We were hoping to have that done before today, so I think in the next couple of days for sure we should be able to have that link updated. But some of the other resources, like the regional food banks donations list, we're still completing the update to that, as Brenda said, so those will be updated as well. But if you click on the coordinator resources page, that has a list of all of the different documents that you'll be using during the food drive. So it has some information about the agency coordinator position itself, so the role that you're fulfilling. And it has information then about some of the unique things, for example, are if you were interested in doing any sort of game. In the past, we've done, I think, a lot more than that, a lot more with that. But there were some ideas last year, I think, about ways to do some raffles, to do some online raffles and things like that. So there are some restrictions and there are resources in that gaming events document that help you to understand the ways that we need to kind of stay within the guidelines that the state has for gaming events. And that includes things like bingo, if you do an online bingo. I think that some of these are potentially they've been potentially impacted by COVID. And so there's also contact information for the charitable activities. It's a part of the, where does it come from? DOJ, their charitable activities location. So those are some useful resources. Again, I think some of that has shifted with COVID and some of the ways that we've done this fundraising, but if you're interested, that's a great place to go. Another thing that I wanted to point out that's on this website and that you'll also be receiving by email and is also included in the handbook are the reporting forms. And at the end of it's a PDF that you'll download. And at the end of the food drive, as agency coordinators, if you have site coordinators, you'll be sharing out a site coordinator reporting form. And those site coordinators will be tallying the amount of cash or check donations and credit card donations that they received and sharing back with you. And then you'll be sharing back the full agency coordinator report form to this group. I believe that you'll be sharing that back with Brenda. Was it Brenda that is doing that? We will clarify that for sure. Yeah. One of the things that has been different about this in this last year that I think will continue to be a little bit different is that we, because the emphasis has been on those payroll deductions, that those reports will automatically be coming to you at the end of the food drive. And so a lot of the process and kind of it has been kind of an elaborate process in the past. I think the report that we heard from last year, for those of you that coordinated last year, it isn't as big of a process and project to update those report forms. So if you have any questions, please reach out to any of us and ask about that process. But hopefully you'll find what you need in the coordinator handbook and with those resources. Do you have anything to add to that, Brenda, from your past? Not to put you on the spot, but.
If you're talking about the website in general, the coordinator resources in general.
The reporting form specifically.
Reporting form, okay. Yeah, no, we will let you know who you need to send that to and what you need to include on it. We will ask that you are including all of the funds that have been raised by your agency, so not just by maybe your single building, but your entire agency. And then if you have payroll deductions, we will add those in as well. The payroll deductions will come out of Workday. It'll be a report out of Workday that I'll receive, and then we'll add those to your report form information for your other donations.
Okay. So I am gonna try one more time to see if I can share. Did anybody see the slide deck again? Because I did have luck with that one.
No.
Okay. So this is really frustrating. So the next thing that we wanted to talk about was what to do with the funds as you receive them. And as we've kind of been saying, we're collecting funds this year in 3 primary ways. The first way is related to payroll deductions, and that is, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. We have a job aid through Workday that kind of helps to walk people through that process. The second way is through credit card donations that are directly attached to the regional food banks. And so we have an updated list of those regional food banks that we'll share and that you can then share with your staff in the communications that you send before the food drive and also during the food drive. And that allows them to directly, so an example of that could be if you were doing a fundraiser that was, you were doing multiple fundraisers that they wanted the chance to be able to share multiple times. So to make multiple donations rather than a recurring donation. That is possible through the payroll deduction process, but it's also possible to go to those regional food banks and specifically donate to them. That gives the regional food bank the opportunity to send the person that is donating a thank you letter and to kind of develop a relationship with them in a little bit of an easier way than through the payroll deductions. So that is that resource is something that can be really valuable. And then the third way is still possible for them to write a check directly to the regional food bank. And it's also possible if people would like to give cash. So where the emphasis has kind of moved away from those cash donations, but if you are in a site that is currently if you're in an agency that currently has people on site, that is something that you are still able to do. So then the last thing I was going to share, we were going to share with you was related to fundraising ideas. And for that, I was going to pass the baton over to Brenda. And she is, we have a couple of ideas and then we were going to open it up for some conversation.
Awesome, thank you, Lynn. We did have one question in the chat that I wanted to address first to make sure that we get it addressed. And that was a timeline summary. So where are we? So today is January 6th. In the next 3 weeks, or actually in the next several days, we will have the website completely updated and we will let you know. We'll send that information out and we'll make sure that the link to the handbook works. So we will send a note out saying that the website is ready. We will also send out a link to a recording of this presentation today and the slide deck that we are intending and sharing today. So we will send all of those things out in the very near future. Over the next several weeks, we would ask that each of you look at what types of activities you'd like to do for fundraising, how you are going to communicate information about those activities. If you're going to focus primarily on payroll deductions, review that process and how you want to share that information. Kind of get yourself ready. And if you are in a large agency and you want to utilize site coordinators, meaning you have various sites either around the state or even a large building with people who are in the office right now or even at home, but you would like to have a coordinator for each division or each floor. Again, even with people at home, you could still divide up that way. So you could seek out individuals that we call site coordinators to help you coordinate those different divisions or different locations around the state for your agency. So those are things that you could do in the next few weeks before the 1st. Then the drive itself runs the entire month of February. During that time, you'll be encouraging people to donate in various ways with various activities. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And then, okay, so I might have misinterpreted the question, but I'm going to keep going. I'm seeing in the chat right now. Then come the end of February, we will ask you to wrap up the drive by collecting total donation amounts so that you can get those turned into us so that we can see what our total difference was that we made in our communities around the state. And those will be either if you do have cash or check and credit card donation totals, and then we'll add the payroll donation totals to those so that we will know how much was donated by each agency. And then later on in April, we'll have another meeting, another Zoom call where we will go over the results, we will celebrate and reflect back on this year's drive. Okay, it looks like maybe I did okay there in interpreting the question. So, so I hope that does answer your question, James. Awesome. So as far as fundraising ideas, for those of you that have been around and maybe were here last year for last year's drive, you know that last year looked very, very different than previous years. Under normal circumstances, i.e. before the pandemic, we would have a lot of activities, physical activities, anything from cakewalks to bake sales and raffles and guessing games and trying to figure out whose picture of whose refrigerator it is on the wall and who gets the most people wins, or, whatever it was. So unfortunately, with us being primarily online, and I know that there are pockets of state employees who are still either in the office or, if it's ODOT, maybe out on the road or in different facilities around the state. The state hospital, for example, is still very much occupied by employees. And so there are pockets of employees in the office still. Primarily, though, obviously, we're still working at home. And as a result of that, we changed and put more of a focus on payroll deductions. So it doesn't mean it has to be the only means of gathering funds, but it is a very effective one and an easy one. And as far as making it happen, and for employees to be able to complete that payroll request and get that done, there's a couple different ways to utilize those payroll deductions. One would be to just ask people if they wanted to give one time or monthly for 12 months a payroll deduction. Great. Another one might be that if you do decide to hold a raffle, say you have an online raffle, which is possible even in this community, this environment right now. It is possible to gather donations from employers, or even state employees or anybody who wants to provide donations, keeping in mind that if it's something tangible, that shipping and things like that might come into play. But if it's gift certificates or things that can be done electronically, that's another way to go. But we did have some people use those payroll deductions last year as payment towards some of those other items and raffles and whatnot. So payroll deductions, again, easy way to do it. They can give once, they can give for 12 months. And there was an issue last year of whether or not they could do more than, or if staff could do more than one payroll deduction. The simple answer is yes. Excuse me, people can do more than one payroll deduction. What we were seeing was it was getting a little confusing if they were giving more than one payroll deduction to the same food bank. And if they did that and it ended up being, say, they might have said they wanted to give $5 a month on the first one and then $10 a month on the second one, that confused our payroll people because they didn't know if it was a mistake or if they really meant to do both. So it is a little more difficult when they do it that way. If they just do a one time, then payroll, I think, is a little bit more easy to understand that that's definitely what they wanted to do. But yes, people can do more than one, and it's very simple and straightforward if they're doing more than one donation to separate food banks. Then there's not as much of a an issue with whether or not there was an error or not. As far as fundraising ideas that you can do over the pandemic, I remember a couple of things from last year that people did. I know that pets are a very big draw. One reason I think, and I don't have one too handy right now, she's snoozing at the moment, but this whole Zoom platform and whatnot has made us all very aware of all of our various pets. And I don't see if anybody's got one handy, toss it up there in the camera so we can see anybody's got anybody around. But I know that pet calendars and doing different things with pets, different activities with pets in the past and pet pictures was very popular. I know that even in some some agencies or universities, oh, there's somebody, Anne's got her puppy. Hi, baby. That even bake sales were possible. But again, that was at a university where they did it as a pickup. The items were baked and people had to come to the university to pick them up. So there are certain circumstances, and as long as you're following the COVID guidelines that you've been given as a state employee, then those activities can be held. Things like jogathons, where you can ask people to get pledges and go out on their own time. You don't have to be in the office to do that type of activity. So, oh, and Deborah's got a picture of her pup up there too. Thank you, Deborah. You guys are making my day. So Having said that, I do want to allow anybody who has, actually specifically people that were involved last year and that did a activity that worked well last year. If anybody is willing to share, that would be wonderful. I think a lot of people would be very, very appreciative to hear any stories that worked for fundraising activities last year in particular. And then if you are not willing to raise your hand, and maybe Lynn can help watch here with people that are raising their hands since we're on multiple pages with so many people participating today. But I'd like to hear from anybody who wants to share, but if you don't, if you want to put something in the chat, that would be awesome too. And just to kind of break it up a little bit, I'm going to start with smaller agencies. So if you're a smaller agency and you had an activity that worked last year, say you're less than 100 employees, let's just focus on agencies with less than 100 employees to start with. Who, if there's anybody that wants to raise their hand and chat for just a minute and tell us what worked for you for fundraising activities last year. And I am seeing one in the chat. Somebody did say that I'm not sure, Lori, I believe you're at a smaller agency, but I can't remember the name, but that you did a raffle for a handmade quilt, which is wonderful. And again, obviously that handmade quilt had to be transported somehow, some way to get to the employee. But if you're close enough to the office and they can pick it up in your office, that's one way to do it, is just to bring items to the office and allow people to pick them up from the office. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised. Are there anybody who participated last year that is in a little bit larger agencies? We'll kind of go medium size, between 100 and 500 employees, who would like to share an activity that worked well last year? Well, I'm going to hope that the larger agency folks are a little more chatty. I'm just going to open it up. Is there anybody who would like to share an activity that worked well last year?
Yeah, Anne and Melissa have their hands raised. Jamie has her hand up.
Okay.
So I unmuted myself. I'm always willing to talk. This is Ann Birch, and I work for the Oregon Department of Human Services, and we are a large agency. Last year, we did a pet calendar, and the first thing we did as a group, and I just wanted to say to agency coordinators, the best success I've had is by creating a good synergy and promoting fun and getting people involved as soon as you can with these fundraising activities. So like I said, we came up with the pet calendar idea. We had to get first we had to get approval from our highest executives that it would be okay to share online the photos. And so we had our IT staff go ahead and set up a calendar page, and we sent out information to the agency encouraging participation, like send your pet photo in. I honestly can't remember. I should have refreshed my memory. We charged a nominal fee for entrance, and people that wanted to enter each photo, they could enter multiples. And then we had categories. We had cats, dogs. I know I put my little goat in. He didn't win, but he sure was adorable. And exotic animals, I believe there was 4 categories. And then the photos came in, and then it cost each person that wanted to vote on an honor system. They were donating money via the payroll system to vote. It was $1 vote, because we weren't in offices, so we couldn't figure out a way. We actually got this idea from another agency years ago. I want to say it was Department of Corrections, but I'm not sure of the agency. So in the office, they were setting up jars, and you could donate the money, and you could vote as many times as you wanted. And then Anyway, in the meantime, we solicited donations from Wilco, PetSmart, Petco. We tried to go out across the state and reach each animal category that, you know, would have an appropriate $25 gift certificate as it was. And when the event was over, again, we tallied the winners, and they got the gift certificate. We could have and would have liked to have produced a calendar that would be for sale at the end with the winning, you know, the winning submissions, but that did not come to fruition. That was another step. That was something that could be done, and there's more to that process, certainly. And then, of course, the calendars, there's a donated amount for someone to purchase those. So again, what I was going to say too, regarding coordinating events and whatnot, over the years, although we have a deadline, you know, which is technically get the donated amounts in to the food drive committee by get your payroll deduction amounts in and all the tallies in by a certain date. I always try to be mindful of at least 2 payrolls, if that makes sense. So you would have, you know, the end of February as a payroll date. So in other words, I try to collect the money as long as I can to make it as easy as possible on people in terms of getting their money in, and then as a coordinator, getting that money tallied and turned in as well. But just try to maximize your time period. And the final thing I would say, even though I got off topic and I apologize, is that, you know, any enthusiasm you can build by starting as soon as you can to look for those in your agency who might be interested and willing to participate. You will be surprised at the ideas that come from that group. So thank you.
So my name is Melissa and I'm at Department of State Lands, and we're a very food motivated group of people, as many state employees are. And last year I had somebody that suggested, hey, why don't we make a cookbook, since we can't be together for our potlucks that we usually do. And our, you know, we have soup days and we have baked potato bar and all that good stuff. So we sent out, first of all, we sent out an email soliciting, sorry, my cat decided to join me too. So we sent out an email soliciting, you know, attention cooks, chefs, bakers, and eaters. For a limited time only, if you make a minimum donation of $8 to a food bank of your choice, and we gave links to all the different food banks, you can receive DSL's digital cookbook. You know, we solicited people to send in cookbook suggestions, you know, their recipes and whatnot. And we put together, gosh, I don't even remember how many recipes ended up in there, over 30 recipes. So we just had people send us their receipt for donation to whichever food bank, just so we could see that, yep, they paid for it. I mean, who's going to say, oh yeah, I paid for a cookbook, sure, and not actually make the donation. And I don't remember how much we made off of it, but considering it was kind of last minute thrown together, we did really good off of it. And in the end, I had some people that are really good working with Adobe. They put everything together and they sent out a link. Here's your digital cookbook, since you paid your $8. So I thought that was a pretty cool idea. You know, it didn't take a lot. There was no printing cost. There was really no cost to the agency at all, other than someone's time and effort to go through and put it together.
Awesome. Was there anybody else? I'm not seeing any hands, but just in case I don't see your hand, if you want to just go ahead and unmute and speak, that would be great. I am glancing back through the chat. Somebody asked Melissa if you could be willing to share that email that you just read.
Sure.
Melissa, you could just send that to me and then I could get that out with our next communication.
Okay.
Love the cookbook idea. Winning pet could be on the cover. Yes. Combine the cookbooks with the pets. There you go. Going back into the questions, many of our employees had difficulty executing the payroll deduction in Workday. I don't know if you can be more specific either now or maybe offline to tell me what the difficulty was, because we didn't really hear about a lot of difficulty last year. There is a job aid that we will make sure that is available to you all and to employees that walks them through screen by screen. I don't know if you've ever used a job aid in Workday before, but they do a really good job, the DAS Workday staff, of putting together a kind of a story map with screenshots of how to work through that. So maybe if we had some more specifics about the difficulty, then we can address that.
Brenda, that question was the one I posed, and it may have just been unfamiliarity with Workday in general. But I had a little trouble with it last year. It just was not real intuitive, I guess. I ended up putting together screenshots and a guide for people. So my main question is if it's the same as last year, hopefully people will be able to, execute it a little bit more easily since they've done it once. But I was just wondering if there was any change to the process.
There's not any change to the process. And like I said, they do have, it sounds like you did the same thing that the DAS Workday staff do, and that's putting together a job aid or, a how-to sheet with screenshots on it. And that will be available again. And like I said, we'll make sure that all of you get that, and then you can make sure that all of your staff get that. And I think we can send it out separately as well as it'll be on Workday itself. You can go to job aids on Workday, but yeah, we'll make sure that communication is as clear as we can get it this year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I know anytime we have it, something brand new, and that one really was completely brand new to everybody. So yeah, I hope we can get that streamlined and whatnot.
April, I see there's a question or a comment from April as well. She was saying that they also had some trouble. If you have some specific feedback on the pieces, the sections of the job aid that weren't very clear, I know that Workday and certainly Brenda and I and the committee would like to improve the job aid as much as possible. So if there's anything you want to share with us to take back to them, that would be tremendous. And they're very responsive. They're amazingly responsive. Actually, we've been really, really grateful for their willingness to help to make things clear. So if you have a chance to share that with us, that would be great. And I don't know, because of all of our screen sharing issues, I'm entering into the chat. The email address, we have an email inbox that is set up that goes that this committee has access to, and it's fooddrive@oregon.gov. So I'm just putting it here in the chat, and Brenda and I specifically monitor that and share then out questions to the rest of the committee, or we'd also share those with Workday. So please feel free to email either of us directly, all of us directly, or that inbox. Also, since I'm the one who typically shares those communication templates throughout the month, I did want to answer or confirm that yes, the job aid will be included separately, and then it's also available in Workday. But I actually had trouble myself finding it in Workday. So if you want to include it as an attachment in one of your email communications to your staff, that would probably be the easiest way for them.
So I'm working my way back up in the questions. And what sort of software systems are people using for each agency to collect funding? What's the process for when forwarding those funds on to whoever receives them? Okay, so if you get donations that are checks, people actually write a check, those checks will need to be collected either by you, the agency coordinator, or by somebody else you've designated within the agency. Or if you have multiple sites, those checks will probably be collected by those site coordinators and then passed on either directly to the regional food banks or to you to pass on to the regional food banks. So any checks need to be made out to the regional food bank that the individual wants to donate to. And then those checks will need to be dropped off or mailed to that regional food bank at the end of the food drive or during the food drive, if that works out better. Credit card donations, there are links when they're on the website and we are working to update them, but there is a document that has all of the card donation links to each regional food bank. So if an individual wants to donate by credit card, they can go to that regional food bank's link and make the donation. And then if you want to, you can request that they give you a screenshot of just enough information that has their name and the donation amount and the regional food bank's logo or something, just enough information that they can show you that they donated if you want to, or if you just want to ask them to let you know that they made that donation, then you can do that. If you are in a position to collect cash, then that cash would need to be consolidated and then dropped off with regional food bank. Ethan's also asking if an agency is assigned a regional food bank. There are 21 regional food banks around the state, and we are, this drive is to benefit any and all of them. We ask that employees keep donations local. So if somebody says, which one of those 21 should I write the check to? Or who should I make my payroll deduction to? There's so many, doesn't matter. We ask that donations stay local, but we also understand that people have ties to other parts of the state. And one of the most common questions we get is, where is the greatest need? And which food bank should we donate to? Which one has the greatest need? And honestly, everybody has the need. So that's really a personal question. And where you would like to donate or where employees would like to donate is up to you, keeping in mind that local is where we would turn to first. So let's see.
Another one of the questions that I was just responding to in the chat is Ethan's related to whether or not there's people can make a direct donation or if there's like kind of a centralized location. And similarly to what Brenda was just saying, we do invite people to stay local. So if one of the staff are interested in making a specific donation, they could go to the regional food bank or contact them and make that donation and then just let you know in the same way as they would in making a credit card donation online. But there isn't a central kind of collection site other than those regional food banks. Does that answer your question, Ethan? Or does anybody else have anything to add to that?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Okay. And certainly, Josh or Megan, if you feel like there's a different way that I should talk about that or something easier, please do chime in.
Sorry, we just lost power at our house. I just got back on it.
No worries at all. And
So
there was
Lynn,
just a question. Oh, go ahead.
one other quick question. Are there specific statistics or data points that you're looking for in terms of like, so if I build an Excel sheet that anyone in the agency can go into and enter when and where and how they made a donation, how much and whatever, or whether they're sending me that data and I enter it, maybe to keep this anonymous for some folks, are there summary data like certain amounts of money, certain percentages of people within the agency, or specific things that you're looking for in terms of what we get back to you, or is that all within the handbook already?
Yes, and again, I definitely welcome Brenda chiming in on this too, but that reporting form that I was going to show you, or was trying to show you, does have this the different fields in there or the specifics of what you'd be reporting, but it can also be as easy as just there is a form that you can share with your staff where they can report back that they've made a donation and how much the donation was and whether it's a donation that's to the Oregon Food Bank or to a regional food bank. But it also can just be as easy, and I know for some people they just said, hey, send me a screenshot of the receipt send me an email that just says, I made this donation in this amount. And then it can just be counted toward the tally for your agency. So for some agencies, it's really exciting and interesting to keep track of that tally. And in the past, we've made kind of a big deal of, and we tried to do that again even last year. It was a little bit more awkward with trying to figure out what to do with the trophies, but because we have the agency separated into size, we have a winner for each agency by size, or each group of agencies by size. So for those that are, really use that competition to drive up the donations, it's really great if you can get that accurate tally. And it's really exciting, and it's inspiring to share at the end how much everyone collected.
As far as the reporting to us at the end of the drive, we just need the total. So we'd just like to know your total cash and check donations, your total credit card donations, and then we'll add the total payroll donations. So we're just looking at the top line total to be reported to us at the end.
The other thing I was going to add to that, and I know we're skipping around a little bit here, but this information is also included in the handbook, and but we aren't collecting and don't collect the specific contact information for everyone who donates, which is, I think, a little bit adjacently related to your question. You don't need to include the people who donated, just the total. But there is an option in Workday, and it's called out in the job aid as well, that if someone is willing to share their contact information, the regional food banks and the Oregon Food Bank would love to have the opportunity to thank everyone who's donating individually, and to start to build a relationship with them and share more information about what's happening in the region that they're in. So that's really, if that's something that people are comfortable with, the food banks have asked just that would be an opportunity that they would have. It's definitely, they really value and appreciate the work that we're doing here, and as you've heard them say, but they also just really love the chance to connect with people specifically and directly. So like I said, we aren't collecting that information. Obviously, Workday, they will value privacy, and they aren't exporting that information. But if people are willing to share it, there's an option to add that. So we can encourage people to do that.
I'm going to try to work back through the questions here so we make sure we get everybody's questions in chat answered. I'm actually going to change my strategy, though. I'm going to go back up to the top because I feel like I'm just focusing on the ones that just got turned in and we haven't gotten through all of them. So I'm going to go back up to the top. I'm starting with James's question. Okay. Somebody, just kind of going back and reflecting on some of the things that are in the chat. Somebody did their office did a virtual movie night, and another one did an online mini concert. And I believe I sat in on a show that Heck put on, and I can't remember exactly what it was now, if it was a talent show. Whatever it was, I laughed like heck for half an hour over lunch. So it was it is a day for technology, that's for sure. Cookbooks. Oh, somebody said that they have someone who makes handmade soap. That would be awesome. So like I said, state employees or friends that want to donate and to raise funds, that's great. I think, Ethan, your question about a software system, we kind of answered with, you can use Excel or whatever you would like to use to collect donation totals. Lori brought up the fact that, yeah, if you are doing a raffle or something that requires something that is considered a gaming activity, there is a document on the website that does talk about charitable activities. There are some rules around raffles, for example. An agency is not allowed, I think it's $10,000. You're not allowed to collect more than $10,000 a year in raffles total. So if you're doing it for the toy drive and the charitable fund drive and the food drive, if you think you're going to get anywhere near there, technically agencies are supposed to track how much they collect in raffles, and there's more information about the gaming in that document. Will we get a step-by-step instructions on using Workday to create payroll deductions? Yes. In Workday, just as a real quick summary, in Workday, when you go to the very front page, one of the buttons, the most common button that I go to is the absence button. I might go to the payroll button. There's another button that is requests, and you will be able to click on the governor's food drive request and then follow the prompts from there. And again, there is a job aid, which is a handout that helps walk people through those prompts that you will receive and you can share with your staff.
Where's the job aid going to, is that going to be sent in an email, or where can I find that? I was able to work my way through Workday to the thing, but I was thinking a simple, some simple instructions in the form of an email sent out to everybody would be useful. Is
Yes,
that what you're providing?
Yep.
I think last year, during the month of February, we marketed that request on the front of Workday. So, you know, when you log into Workday, sometimes there will be, and I know some agencies don't have Workday, and we can address that in a minute, but those that do, when you log into Workday in February, there will be a note about the food drive, and I think the job aid is going to be there as well, in addition to a link to the requests. Thank you, Lynn. I see your note. Going back down. Oh, Heck did Family Feud. Maybe that's what I watched and laughed so hard. Are auctions allowed? Yes, auctions are allowed. Silent auctions are definitely allowed. And some more information about movie night fundraiser. Okay, do we have anybody else that wants to share real quick before we move on? One more question from Annie. Looking online, is there a benchmark that we should be focusing on? So one thing that agencies do is look at their previous year's donation totals. And if you don't have those, I can provide those to you. And just to try to increase donations over your just make a goal of something more than previous years. So that's a common goal. Having said that, some agencies that haven't really met their, peaked in their donation efforts. And so maybe that's not realistic. Maybe setting something higher is realistic. I know that, a lot of people have said during the pandemic, it was very hard last year. OSU, for example, had their best year ever last year because they got really creative. And Shelley is awesome. And so they did a wonderful job under these circumstances. They are at a university.
It looks like Yolanda has a question.
Oh, hi. Somebody mentioned Family Feud. I think another good game that may bring in some revenue would be maybe Jeopardy.
That's a great idea. Yeah. I think there are actually some online platforms that you can go to and create a Jeopardy game and then play it virtually. So if I find that resource, I'll share it out. It's a great idea.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for sharing all of your ideas. And hopefully you have, for those people that are new, have some ideas that you can work with. And if you, as Lynn mentioned earlier, if you have any questions or any other comments, just send them to that food drive email address. And we are monitoring it regularly. And then again, with the documents and whatnot on the website, we will have that information and keep in contact with you between now and the beginning of the food drive and provide more information. But if you have a question, you don't have to wait to see what our next communication is. Just reach out to us and ask. And then if there is anybody who has documents like the email that Melissa was going to share, we can certainly share that with those documents with everybody to help. This is one where plagiarism is highly encouraged.
Mhm.
So not college anymore. So plagiarize, plagiarize, plagiarize. Okay. And with that, I would like to turn it over to our next speaker. So today we have Gabriella. Gabriella, she can tell you her story, but Gabriella works at a local food pantry, and she's going to share some information about their work there and the importance of our food drive and whatnot. So welcome, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you all so much for having me here today. I really appreciate it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Always have to do that test. So I do work, I manage a Aware Food Bank up in Woodburn, off of the I-5 corridor. I don't know, what is that? Closer to Northern Oregon. Anyways, I am also a part of Miriam Polk Food Share, the regional food bank. And yes, yay, Woodburn. We have seen a lot of increase in not only clientele coming into the food bank, but we've also seen an increase in support, and definitely coming here from the state. We just want to say thank you so much. Last year we've been measuring all of our outage of food and as well as increase of clients. And some interesting things to take away is from the year 2020 to 2021, we distributed 1.8 million pounds of food just through our local food bank. And that's going to over 26,000 of our clients coming in and accessing the food bank. And so, or I guess that would be visits, but we are intentionally trying to think creatively how to get food out to our local community. There's different ways that us at Woodburn are doing, but I know in very many different parts, there's Salem and Polk counties and, northern Multnomah and Washington counties, Clackamas, where everybody else is thinking the same. How do we get the food to our community? And it's not just by asking our clients to come into us any longer. We are doing things intentionally to make sure that we are, nobody's going hungry. That's our mission, is to make sure none of our community members are going hungry. So we have mobile distributions, and those look like pop-up sites where we will go into a certain location where we know that our clientele are at, or it's easier to access. We also have where we've done senior distributions, and we're going and delivering boxes to our senior community that feels truly threatened by COVID-19, and how and we want them to feel safe in accessing food, and we don't want anybody to go hungry. We've also invited our local schools to come and do lunches and breakfast serve it through outside. We're having a drive-through there for a while, just to make sure that, again, our community was safe, and doing all that we could to serve our clients. So those are some interesting, unique ways that we're trying to pivot and roll with everything that's going on through COVID, but really to make sure that our community is staying well fed. And I would welcome any questions. I know you guys are all over the state, so I feel kind of like, I don't know how much to share about Woodburn, but if you have questions or thoughts, ideas, things that you've heard, I would love to hear. Yeah, somebody said, not to mention that our location burned down. We did unfortunately have a fire, and it was one of our It was arson, and we just see we're in a rural location in Woodburn where it's not always easy access to get mental health supports. And that was one of the things that came out of this. But we were so grateful for the community's response and support. And we just are still going. We are serving out of the back of a parking lot. And then Chemeketa was so incredibly gracious, and they had a building for sale, and they've allowed us to utilize that building while it's on the market.
So Gabby, are there how many volunteer opportunities are there? Are there volunteer opportunities at your pantry or other pantries around the state?
Yes, always. That is how we operate. We operate from generous donors, whether that's financial gifts or food donation gifts, but we also operate through, the model is to have volunteers. And so at Aware Food Bank in Woodburn, we have opportunities to volunteer Monday through Friday. We are open to the public Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and closed on Wednesdays. But with the large amount of food that I just discussed and the clientele that we see, we're always doing something. And but every food bank, they absolutely need support. So if you're in your area and you want to look up one of your food banks and see how you could volunteer, that would be a great way to support your community.
And I know, I'm not sure so much about the pantries, but the regional food banks around the state, I know do often, or used to anyway, have some evening shifts and weekend shifts that were available. I don't know about your pantry, Gabby, but I know that others have around the state.
Our pantry does, and I would let Josh Gwynn, who's my coworker over at Marion Polk Food Share, speak to how things are happening there at the regional food bank and volunteer opportunities. But at Aware, we have a special program. Well, all of our programs are special, but we have a program where we intentionally are doing, like I said, bringing food to our clients. And so we're doing outreach from 3:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. Tuesdays, the first Tuesday and the third Tuesday of the month. So that way clients can have equity of access in the evening hours. And we also go out and deliver food to our clients about those hours as well. So there's evening hours available.
Awesome. That's another question that we get each year. And I think somebody might have, I might have missed it in the chat. I think somebody talked about volunteering, but there are definitely volunteer activities. And sometimes there's offices, people will get 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 people together and contact a regional food bank and go down for a shift altogether, or take their family and go for a shift. So yeah, there's definitely other ways in addition to the fundraising, the food drive to be able to assist the regional food banks and the whole network.
Absolutely. Completely agree. All of the support we can get, we appreciate it. It's a lot to serve our community, but we love it. And that's why we're here.
Well, that's awesome. Does anybody have any other questions for Gabby?
I can see that Alonda has her hand raised.
Hi, thanks. Now, at one time, there was age restrictions. Are there any age restrictions on volunteers now? Because when this COVID first broke out, they were saying if you were 60 or, or over, they didn't want to, put you at a greater risk. Now, is that still in effect, or?
No, not at Aware. We even have some moms coming in with their littles because sometimes it's just that community, right?
Mhm.
And that's the same thing for any of our seniors who are over 60. So we didn't actually ever have, we pivoted in a different way. And there's also, you can look into the pantries around you and see if there's something that fits your need or your desire or your community who you're wanting to serve their desire. But we pivoted in a different way where we took everything in the very beginning of COVID. We didn't restrict our volunteers. We saw a lot of volunteers step away for fear of contracting COVID, and completely understandable. So we decided to take everything to where our clients would pull up, and we did a drive-through. And that's the way that we did what we could to protect our clients. But we don't have age restrictions. And like I said, moms come in with their littles even, just to get that socializing factor and really start teaching their kids at a really young age what it is to give back to the community.
Wonderful. Anybody else?
I've got a quick question for Josh, Gwen. I noticed that you have, this is Ethan with PERS. There's a youth farm that's referenced on your website. Can people give designated funds?
Yes, they can. I'm not sure if they can give a designated fund through a payroll deduction. I'm not sure if there's an ability to kind of mention that on the payroll deduction. But through, for example, if you were giving on Marion Polk Food Share, if you were writing a check, you could designate that on a memo line, and that's generally the case for most regional food banks. Or if you were giving on an online donation form, usually there's a comments section or an additional kind of line item where you can say this is for this particular program. That's often the case for most regional food banks, and it certainly is the case for Marion Polk Food Share, where you could say, I want this to go to the youth farm or Meals on Wheels, or in this case, you could say, I want this to go in support of the Aware Food Bank.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and I will say on the payroll deductions, there is not a way to do it through the payroll deductions. So that would have to be done either, like on a check or through the credit card donations online. Okay, well, it looks like the chat has slowed down a bit, and I'm not seeing any other hands raised. Having said that, I think Lynn and I can stick around for a few minutes. If somebody does want to have a smaller conversation or a side conversation with one of us, we can stick around. But other than that, I think we've covered the material, and I apologize for our technology issues today. Sometimes things are just out of your hands, and you can practice and you can test and you can try it, and then things just don't go well. So I apologize for that. But rest assured that we will provide all of the information via email and on our website in the near future. And again, reach out to us at that Food Drive website, Food Drive email address if you have any questions after today. So I would like to thank everybody that helped put this together today. And I would like to thank everybody who has been a coordinator in the past and has stepped up yet again. I see a lot of familiar names and faces, and that's wonderful. And I also really appreciate those who are new to the Drive. And if you are feeling overwhelmed, please, please, please reach out because we don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I know that it can feel like that, but we want to make sure that you have all your questions answered and you have a clear idea of what's ahead of you for the month of February. So yes, again, we really appreciate you all. So with that, I would just like again to say thank you very much, and everybody have a great day. And Lynn and I will stick around for a few minutes in case anybody does want to chat. So thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
We'll see you.
Bye.